Let us understand the differences between file system and DBMS. So, in file system, data is maintained in files, and each user has to define and implement their files. So, in case if there are two people working on the same file, they will download the copy of the file, work on it, and so there might be no, there might not be any synchronization with what they are doing because each is having their own copy. Data definition is a part of the application programs itself. So to change anything in the files, it's only through the programs that I can do it. Programs are to be written for every query, programs are to be written for changing anything in the file. So for everything, there has to be programs. And there is a lot of redundancy. Redundancy means duplication in defining and storing data. And so it leads to a lot of wasted space also, and it is also redundant. So maintaining a correct copy of the data becomes a challenge. So as we know, as we can understand from all these things, file system is a disadvantageous system and DBMS is a much more proficient system over file system. So now let us understand what happens in the database system. In the database system, there is a single repository of data which gets maintained for various users, and it is self describing in nature. That is, it stores that there is customers table. Customer has customer ID, which is of varchar of 10, customer name, which is varchar of 100, which stores 100 characters, and it has age, which might be a number. So it stores the complete details of the table, and that gets stored in the DBMS catalog. And this information, this definition and description of the database is called as metadata. Metadata is information about data in the database. So there are certain disadvantages of file system. One is redundancy of in the storage, so that might lead to lack of consistency among various copies and loss of integrity. So for example, uh, two teachers have downloaded uh, two teachers have downloaded John's record. One has updated one address and another one has updated another address of John. Now that leads to consistency problem. The next issue with file system is close relation between the data storage and the application program. For everything, there is dependency on application program. For changing data, for any query, an application program has to be written. So for anything, application program is has to be written. The next is multiple user support. Database sharing and concurrency control is an advantage in database system. So as I was telling you that if there are two people working on same data, they need to download the file individually and work on it. Database sharing and concurrency, if two people simultaneously access the same data item, that again is a problem in file system. The next problem is database security and prevention of unauthorized access. This is again not taken care in file systems. And the last one is for anything, application programs have to be written. There is no facility for having any ad hoc query system where data can be quickly retrieved. So there are certain advantages or characteristics of a database system which thus helps in overcoming all these disadvantages. So first one is self-describing nature. So self-describing nature means the description of the database gets stored in DBMS catalog, and this is called as metadata. In traditional file processing system, everything is hard coded into the source code. The next characteristics of database management system is Insulation between programs and data. The programs are written separately, data is separate, and then there is data abstraction. So in DBMS, it provides the users with an abstract view. Now, abstraction means showing the relevant details and hiding the irrelevant details. So, a DBMS system maintains program data independence and program operation independence. So, now let us understand what is program data and program operation independence. Now, program data independence means there is the application program and the data, they are independent of each other. There is no dependency between the program application program and the data. And the next one is program operation independence. See, program defines certain work. Now how that work gets done, it is not program's responsibility. Maintaining or bringing that operation to action is taken care by DBMS. Program operation independence is referring to, that is, the application programs can operate on the data by invoking the operations regardless of how the operations are implemented. Now how those operations are carried out, that the program is not worried about. The program just operates on the data, and the program operates on the data, but underlying the data gets fetched, but there is no dependency between both. That is program data independence. Now because of these two features, uh, the characteristic data abstraction comes into the scene. Now what is data abstraction? Data abstraction means showing the relevant details and hiding the irrelevant details. So now, and in operation, I only that is program operation independence, I only bother about what is the name of the operation, and if there are any arguments, I need not worry about how the operation is carried out. So that how the operation is carried out is irrelevant details to the application programmer. I view, that is, the users only get a conceptual representation of data. That is, there is patients table, there is doctors table. Patients are related to doctors, and the patients will also have some nurses in their wards or rooms. So, what I see is the conceptual representation of the data, and then there might be some tables. But I am not bothered about how the data is actually getting stored, in what B trees, in what index structures, hash structures, and what are the underlying uh, physical path where the data is stored. That is irrelevant. And all this becomes possible with the help of data model. Data model is a type of data abstractions. Now with the help of this data model, I bring about conceptual representation. Conceptual representation means representing a concept. So here in the data model, I will use object, or you may call it entities and relationship, to bring about the conceptual representation. So this particular data model, it will hide the irrelevant details. See, so for example, I may have name, student number. Name is uh, these are the internal storage format, which is not uh, relevant to the application programmer. The next is support of multiple views of the data. Uh, so let's say that there are two teachers. So here, one I can view other teachers, or you may say other employees' data, but I cannot view their salary. But my manager can view the salary of both the employees. So now there are various views that are there. Now views is nothing but, depending upon what level of permissions do I have, I get to see only a subset of the database relevant to a particular user. So it contains only virtual data that is derived from the database files, but these are not stored anywhere. So at that point of time, it just quickly derives from the database, but then it is not stored anywhere. So let's say if I access another person's data, that data gets fetched from the database. So there is no separate table that gets maintained so that I do not see the salary. And the last one is sharing of data and multi user transaction processing. There are a lot of users of DBMS, so they might access the database at the same time. And all multi user DBMS allows this. And they also allow concurrency control. Now, concurrency control means several users might want to access the same data. So, John's address might be updated by more than one person at a time. And all this should take place in the right manner so that the result is finally correct. So the transaction should have asset properties. This will be seen in further chapters.